Hi, welcome to Listen2Riches. The book I'm going to discuss today is about the Rockefeller family, a legendary tale of enduring wealth in the American financial landscape for over a century, making them one of the most powerful families in America. When we think of American billionaires, names like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, or Warren Buffett often come to mind, newly minted tycoons in modern society. However, it's essential to understand that these individuals have only basked in the limelight for a few decades at most. In the course of American development, there's a family whose fortune has spanned more than 200 years, even surpassing the combined wealth of today's top 10 American billionaires at its zenith. This family is the Rockefeller family. There's a saying that wealth does not last beyond 3 generations, and for most wealthy families, their prominence fades after a mere few decades. But in a nation with over 200 years of history like the United States, there exists a family that has reached its 6th generation and continues to maintain a robust trajectory of growth. That family is the Rockefeller family. In the following pages, I will take you into their world, helping you understand their wealth and their understated yet prestigious way of life. The author of this book, William Manchester, is a renowned American historian known for his profound research and exhilarating biographies. His body of work includes biographies of Churchill, MacArthur, Kennedy, and the Rockefeller family. He has written a total of 18 books, with his monumental biography of Churchill, The Last Lion, being the most prominent. Before delving into the content of the book, let me introduce you to the central figure of this narrative, John D. Rockefeller. He was the greatest financial titan of 19th century America, starting as a penniless young man and founding the first oil monopoly in the United States in 1870, eventually becoming the first billionaire of the 19th century. In the last 4 decades of his life, John D. Rockefeller dedicated himself to philanthropy, primarily focusing on education and medicine. He established top-tier institutions like the University of Chicago and Rockefeller University, funded the construction of the United Nations headquarters, and supported the Peking Union Medical College in Beijing. To this day, the Rockefeller family has evolved into its 6th generation. As you walk through the streets and alleys of America, you'll encounter reminders of the Rockefeller family's illustrious past. Their development is considered a microcosm of American history, a true legend. In the following sections, I will delve into the contents of this book. We will explore it from 3 perspectives. The first key focus will be how John D. Rockefeller rose from rags to riches to become an oil magnate, achieving a remarkable turnaround in his life. The second focus will be on the life that young Rockefeller, born with a silver spoon, was destined to lead. The third focus will be on whether the descendants of the Rockefeller family can continue the family's legacy and glory. Next, we will delve into the first key aspect, which is how John D. Rockefeller rose from humble beginnings to become a titan of the oil industry, achieving a remarkable turnaround in his life. John D. Rockefeller was born in 1839 in Richford, New York, USA. He spent his childhood on the island of Huasa in Cayuga County. Interestingly, his upbringing seemed to be filled with signs of destiny. In the local context, Cayuga meant a cunning place, while Huasa symbolized one who seeks a string of beads made from shells. Such an environment seemed to foretell his future shrewd business acumen, as if he were destined to stand out in the marketplace. John D. Rockefeller is renowned as the founder of the Rockefeller family's wealth and affectionately known as Old Rockefeller. During his formative years, his mother played a pivotal role. In those challenging times, the family was not affluent because their father was a neglectful man who frequently peddled fake medicines in remote villages, often returning home with substantial earnings that were quickly squandered. Fortunately, Old Rockefeller's mother, Eliza Rockefeller, was a resilient woman who silently supported the entire family while raising 5 children. Eliza Rockefeller was an extremely strict mother, demanding a lot from her children, with the most notable rule being an absolute prohibition on alcohol consumption. Even her grandchildren were not allowed to touch alcohol. His mother's upbringing left a profound impact on old Rockefeller. Throughout his formative years, his unwavering determination often frustrated his adversaries, making it seem as if there were nothing that could defeat him. Old Rockefeller was also known for his strictness. He meticulously recorded daily income and expenditures to ensure not a penny was wasted. In contrast, his father was a reckless individual known locally as Big Bill, who peddled fake cancer cures in remote villages for years. Despite these tonics being non-toxic and ineffective, he made quite a bit of money. Each time he returned home, he had at least $1,000 in his pocket, which he distributed as pocket money to the children. Although Big Bill had a notorious reputation and didn't fulfill his responsibilities as a father, his influence on the children remained significant. He frequently faced dangerous situations but always found a way to resolve them, displaying remarkable intelligence. He often deceived his own children, making them clever. Therefore, it can be said that old Rockefeller's astute business acumen began to manifest at a young age. He not only excelled at spotting business opportunities but also proactively purchased candies and sold them individually to his siblings, earning their pocket money. Unlike other children, old Rockefeller seemed to relish the process of making money, resolutely saving both his earnings and the allowance his father provided. Even at the age of 13, he began offering high-interest loans to others, becoming a small-scale moneylender. Old Rockefeller set his own modest goal in high school, telling his classmates that he wanted to become a man with $100,000. In terms of the value of the dollar at the time, this was equivalent to being a millionaire. However, old Rockefeller left school at an early age because his father refused to pay for his college education. To achieve his modest goal, he chose to enter an industry that was highly regarded at the time. Old Rockefeller's first job was as a bookkeeper at a grain commission house, similar to an accountant today. Once he mastered the office rules, he quickly established his own grain commission firm, bringing him one step closer to his modest goal. What set old Rockefeller apart was his talent for spotting potential business opportunities. While running his grain business, he already foresaw that the oil industry would soon surpass the grain industry. Although oil extraction was a low-margin and perilous industry, he set his sights on the refining sector. Consequently, he invested in a small oil refinery and immersed himself in the oil industry. At the time, the American oil industry was in its infancy with substantial waste during the refining process. However, old Rockefeller was an efficiency enthusiast who had a passion for order. He even hired someone solely to blot ink, as he believed that using blotting paper to dry freshly signed names was a waste of precious time and energy. How could such a detail-oriented person tolerate the inefficiencies of the oil industry? He personally conducted experiments and improved the oil refining methods in his factories. Old Rockefeller's factories not only lowered the cost of refining but also operated at lightning speed, easily outpacing the competition. His ultimate goal was to become the sole global oil magnate because refineries were like toll booths on a high-speed highway, collecting fees from every passing vehicle. Mastering the refineries meant controlling the entire oil industry. Therefore, old Rockefeller established the Standard Oil Company of Ohio, leveraging his cost advantages to force competitors, one by one, out of the refinery business. While some stronger companies initially resisted under old Rockefeller's cunning strategy, they were either dismantled or absorbed. Before he was even 40 years old, old Rockefeller had achieved his grand ambition, controlling all the oil flowing into the market and becoming the wealthiest man of the 19th century. To further solidify his power, old Rockefeller established the Standard Oil Trust, the ultimate monopoly in the oil industry. While his initial intent was to streamline the operations of large companies in the oil industry, monopolies themselves had a double-edged nature, hindering new forces from entering the oil industry and leading to price issues. Many Americans saw him as a thorn in their side. Then, on May 15, 1911, the United States antitrust laws came into effect, and the Supreme Court of the United States ordered the dissolution of the Standard Oil Trust within 6 months. The Standard Oil Trust, founded by old Rockefeller, was ultimately broken up into 33 major companies, and old Rockefeller formally retired. The legendary story of old Rockefeller approaches its conclusion here. At this point, his son, young Rockefeller, would become the family's heir and take on the family's legacy. Next, let's delve into the second key aspect today, which is the kind of life young Rockefeller, born with a silver spoon, would lead. From the perspective of an ordinary person, young Rockefeller undoubtedly fits the mold of a typical heir to great wealth, given his father's immense fortune. People might assume that young Rockefeller grew up surrounded by luxury, enjoying the finest foods, stylish clothing, and an unlimited allowance, leading a carefree life. However, stepping into young Rockefeller's life would surprise you. Young Rockefeller spent his childhood at the family's summer vacation villa. Because young Rockefeller's parents and grandmother were devout believers, he was immersed in religious teachings from a young age. His childhood life was, in fact, quite monotonous, with daily scripture readings in the morning, evening prayers, weekly prayer meetings, and lectures from his grandmother. It can be said that his upbringing was extremely strict. Under the influence of his religious faith, young Rockefeller even made a vow before the age of 10 to never smoke, drink alcohol, or blaspheme against God throughout his life. This indicates that young Rockefeller's childhood environment was deeply conservative. Despite their great wealth, the parents believed that spending money for indulgence was sinful. Even when the family went on outings, old Rockefeller would bring a pastor along, delivering sermons during breaks and leading everyone in hymns on the train. Such a manner of upbringing, which prevented young Rockefeller from enjoying the life of the wealthy, is surprising. Although there were 4 children in the family during their childhood, there was only one tricycle, and their pocket money had to be earned through their own efforts and sweat. Young Rockefeller typically walked to school while many of his peers rode in carriages. These experiences led young Rockefeller to believe, in his early years, that his family was not particularly wealthy. Before attending college, young Rockefeller lived with his mother and grandmother, exposed to a puritanical lifestyle and values. College opened up a new world for young Rockefeller, allowing him to start enjoying secular pleasures. Once in college, dancing became young Rockefeller's favorite activity. In fact, young Rockefeller met his wife at a dance. Even in his 60s, young Rockefeller still considered dancing a form of exercise and a wonderful way to relax. It's worth noting that old Rockefeller's only hobby was golf. The older generation of the Rockefeller family were devout believers, leading disciplined and restrained lives. These changes brought about by young Rockefeller bothered the female members of the Rockefeller family. Fortunately, old Rockefeller was relatively tolerant and did not try to obstruct inevitable changes. After graduating, young Rockefeller joined his father's company directly. While it's often expected for a son to follow in his father's footsteps in the business world, young Rockefeller was not particularly interested in the business empire his father had built. Old Rockefeller was a devout Christian but never shied away from money-making opportunities due to his faith. In contrast, young Rockefeller was a man of unwavering faith, whether in his personal life or work. The differences between father and son may have stemmed from their upbringing. Old Rockefeller grew up in poverty and struggled, while young Rockefeller was raised in a relatively comfortable environment. He didn't need to work hard to change his circumstances because old Rockefeller had already accumulated wealth for the family. Young Rockefeller, however, was building a reputation for the family. Though old Rockefeller was immensely wealthy, he was seen as a symbol of economic monopoly, sparking antitrust legislation and public discontent. On one hand, those who believed in liberalism saw old Rockefeller as a thorn in their side, even attempting to assassinate him multiple times. On the other hand, people of the time ridiculed his pursuit of wealth given his status as a devout Christian, comparing him to a monk obsessively chasing riches, a behavior deemed repugnant by society. However, young Rockefeller took on the role of the family's reputation savior from the very beginning. In 1914, shortly after he joined the family business, a strike broke out in the family-run Colorado coal mines, resulting in the deaths of several women and children and inciting national outrage. Old Rockefeller initially believed that giving workers time off would only lead to them squandering their money, so he refused to negotiate with the workers. However, young Rockefeller believed this approach wouldn't fundamentally resolve the issue and that it would continue to damage the family's reputation. Ultimately, he traveled to Colorado himself, met with the workers face-to-face, learned the reasons behind their strike, and pledged to provide a range of benefits and safeguard the workers' rights. Young Rockefeller's actions marked a turning point for the Rockefeller family, where people began to accept the family and the family itself began to integrate into society. Subsequently, young Rockefeller dedicated himself to charity and philanthropy. Compared to old Rockefeller, his image was more upright and positive. This also set the stage for a new generation of Rockefellers. So, what will the younger generation of the Rockefeller family be like? Next, we'll share the third part of today's content, whether the descendants of the Rockefeller family can uphold the family's legacy. Young Rockefeller once said that in a turbulent century, the best thing one can do is to raise an excellent child for society. Fortunately, young Rockefeller raised 6 children and thus nurtured 6 outstanding descendants for society. Members of the Rockefeller family have always maintained frugal habits, and young Rockefeller's sons were no exception. From a young age, they had to earn their pocket money through their own labor, which included activities like catching flies, shining shoes, weeding, raising rabbits, and selling them to laboratories. Of course, they did have pocket money, but it wasn't spent recklessly. Their daily expenses were meticulously recorded because their father could check their little account books at any time. Children who managed well received rewards, while those who did not faced consequences. All of this was aimed at cultivating their financial management skills, as they knew they would one day be responsible for overseeing the family's multi-billion-dollar philanthropic endeavors. Unlike their grandfather and father, there was never any pressure on them to follow in their footsteps in the business world, nor was there any expectation for them to passively inherit the immense wealth. Instead, they were encouraged to find their own life's purpose. Within the realm of the wealthy, the Rockefellers were considered at the pinnacle. Their wealth was such that they earned $100,000 in interest every week at the bank. Although they had the means to flaunt their riches, the puritanical values inherited from old Rockefeller did not diminish over time. They became deeply ingrained in the Rockefeller family's DNA. They did not indulge in extravagance, live luxuriously, or spend money recklessly, even refraining from buying things they truly needed. However, the Rockefeller family was not like ordinary families. They had a unique way of life. While most people commuted to work on crowded subways or buses, the Rockefeller sons either drove sports cars or took private planes. Some Americans vacationed at resorts, while Nelson Rockefeller chose to retreat to a ranch in Venezuela. Even in the face of divorce, when most people had to endure the pain while continuing to work, Winthrop Rockefeller purchased a mountain and secluded himself there for healing. These were all everyday aspects of their lives and symbolized the supreme status of the Rockefeller family. As the saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility. The descendants of the Rockefeller family enjoyed the wealth accumulated by their grandfather and father, but did not forget their responsibilities. Their grandfather, old Rockefeller, had always been concerned about charitable issues, and this tradition continued. For the Rockefeller family, philanthropy was always the most important investment. Young Rockefeller's children kept pace with the times, using the family's influence where it was needed most. For instance, Winthrop had a deep concern for the resettlement of veterans after World War II and could directly request help from the U.S. Secretary of War. When Nelson traveled globally, he carried letters of introduction to various world leaders, actively promoting the establishment of the United Nations headquarters in New York, a site purchased by young Rockefeller. Nelson displayed a keen interest in politics and was eventually elected governor of New York. Under the unique educational system of the Rockefeller family, the third generation of Rockefellers grew up to be societal elites. While they appeared to be scattered in various pursuits, their hearts remained closely united. The glory of the Rockefeller family was still their utmost concern. After all, being a Rockefeller, even if you received a traffic ticket, could make headlines. The Rockefeller Brothers Fund and the Rockefeller Brothers Company have become symbols of the new generation of the Rockefeller family. The Rockefeller Brothers Fund primarily engages in philanthropy and financial affairs, while the Rockefeller Brothers Company focuses on managing the family's venture capital, supporting enterprises they believe are worth investing in across various sectors such as aerospace, rockets, housing, food production, disease control, and more. These investments typically have a 5 to 10-year horizon, and regardless of the outcome, funds are withdrawn after the term expires and reinvested in other areas. Many original initiatives are also undertaken by the descendants of the Rockefeller family. For the people of Latin America, the name Rockefeller no longer signifies wealth but represents public service, schools, medical research, and culture. Although the era of old Rockefeller has long passed and the halo around young Rockefeller has gradually faded, the glory of the Rockefeller family endures. If wealth is just cold, hard numbers or something to be indulged in, it will eventually fade away. However, when wealth is wisely managed and used to meet societal needs, that is the greatest good. The descendants of young Rockefeller's family have fully leveraged the family's wealth, actively focusing on the public interest, and it is this commitment that has allowed the family's glory to be securely passed down, enhancing their noble image. Well, this book concludes here. Congratulations on finishing another book. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with your friends. Let us combine wisdom with action to achieve our financial goals and create a better future. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.